How do you like the venue?
Yeah.
It's weird, right? I think it is cool, but it's for a high-tech kind of world we're in. This is one of the paradigm-breaking moments that you guys get to have, right? We can go down to the coolest places in London, have all the sleek glass and all the wireless whatevers, but part of the mission here is to break you guys' day-to-day routine, and that's breaking the paradigm, breaking even your ordinary line of thought. We all get caught in the day-to-day grind. That's part of being in that management day-to-day. And the purpose of a mastermind like this is really to shake up the whole operation, shake you up, shake your mind up, and have a different way of looking at things. So welcome indeed. I'm glad you all are here. Thank you for your business. I want to help level set everybody. So normally I would take a little longer, but I'm going to try to go through it faster and still accomplish the same goal. To make a mastermind really work, we sprinkle in a few ingredients, right? And you'll see all these ingredients on your schedule. There's the strategic stuff that you'll hear some people talk about, and scale ideas that have to do with kind of team building and leadership training and so forth. And then there's the tactical pieces that you guys will sprinkle in as you go. And all of these pieces are important, and that's the in-session structured content. But that's important, and it's the glue that sticks the whole thing together, but the magic actually happens when it's just you guys talking amongst yourselves, right? You're going to find something that someone says that goes, wait a minute, I never thought of that. I didn't know that, and now I can apply that. And that's what I want you to really be on alert for. When you talk to people, and make sure you mix around and talk to all the different people, meet everybody, that's where you're going to find stuff. And so if there's something that is bugging you, right, an opportunity where you can take advantage of or solve a problem or what, make sure that you get focused and try to find that. And I may give you an assignment to do during lunch here in a minute. So my personal motto is I'm at your service, right? So it doesn't matter in that mastermind, after the mastermind. If you need something, you just have to find me, usually online, and then I'll try to get back to you as quick as I can. But I love entrepreneurs, so I like to hang out with entrepreneurs and help them wherever I can. And so I truly am at your service. The daily schedule, so this, like anything else I do, should be a systemic kind of view, right? Everybody gets their breakfast in the morning. We start more often at 9 than not, and we generally end by 5:15. And then everybody can be on their own in the, not the Cloister bar, but the bar by the restaurant that you guys had breakfast in. You can have a drink there, happy hour, just lounge around. But that's a really good time to kind of deconstruct the day and share takeaways and follow up. It's like, hey, you said this in your SMART session, but I had a question about that, and dive in deeper. So daily session, happy hour, and then dinner. So tonight, I told you about the logistics. Tomorrow night, we're staying here. We have a medieval dinner. And then the last night, we're going to do logistics back into town to my favorite little restaurant, India Red, Jason and I's local haunt. So during the breaks also, you guys will be introduce yourselves and make yourselves acquainted. So I do really want to have you guys take a minute and remind yourselves why you're here. Each of you made a choice to be here. You're investing a significant effort to be here, time and gold and all those things are required to be here. So why are you here? What's the point? What do you expect to get out of it? You should mentally have something in your mind that, gosh, it would be really nice if I could solve this problem, or if I could get information from people who've been there, done that, related to this specific issue. For each of you, try to find what that one or two item difference might be. It doesn't take much to make a big impact in a business. As your businesses grow, one little idea can be, significant in many ways. And I can give you lots of examples of that later. So when we ask guys, why do you come to a Catalyst 88 event, this is the kind of things they tell us, right? They want to take their business to the next level. They want to learn how to scale. They want better systemic ideas. They want to talk about Amazon stuff, but they also want to talk about other stuff, diversification off of Amazon, for example. They want to be inspired. Sometimes you find yourself stuck in that day-to-day grind, right? The doing it, and you don't have a chance to fly out and think strategic. So this is your chance to do that. And then, of course, that can prove to be motivating. So just in terms of general etiquette, right? Be mindful of your phones, right? Be mindful of others, as we're doing this thing. So if you get into a side conversation, it may be really interesting to you, but it may be distracting for everybody else, so keep that in mind. Don't forget to participate. This is an active participation sport. May lose a table here. Freaking Murphy's working overtime on me. And then, of course, we do try to keep schedule. We do try to keep the trains running on time, and that actually is generally true throughout the day. But we're also flexible. So in your company, you guys should know these types of things that we're about to cover. And I'm giving you an example of what these types of things are for us. So in your company, if you don't know your values, you haven't written down your values, and you don't share those values with your team, you're missing an opportunity. One, to articulate and focus on what these values should be, and two, to make sure that you're measuring people against these values. Fundamentally, if you don't use values as your key metric when you're hiring, then you are going to have a lot longer learning process. And it won't be fun, by the way. If you put values at the front and center of your hiring process, of your management process, of your performance process, you will have better results. And so some of the things we believe in, as you can see, we do the right thing. This means it doesn't matter if it's good or bad for us financially, right? We'll take a hit if we have to do the right thing. Doesn't matter, we do the right thing. Even if nobody's looking, you have to do the right thing. Our belief is, especially on the internet, somebody will always find out. Whatever it is, it's like they're gonna find out. Just make it right and take care of business and step up where you have to. Of course, relationships matter, especially to me. I definitely believe in long-term relationships. You can see on my strengths here. For those who've taken it, we're going to talk about that with Michael a little bit more. But relator basically is somebody who really values these types of relationships over the long term. And then, of course, we believe in both strategy and tactics. You can't have one without the other. Turns out brilliant strategy without execution doesn't get you anywhere. And execution without direction, you're also just running in circles. And then finally, you see some of the others. The golden rule is fundamentally a very important thing to me. Like, I would never ask anybody to do something that I wouldn't be willing to do myself. And I wouldn't expect any different. So, if you don't, how many of you guys have values in your company right now? Okay, good. So if you don't already and you haven't written them down, take the time when you get back, write down your values. And then if you have a team, even if it's a team of one, start sharing those values. And start talking about those values and how those values show up in your company. It may seem like an unimportant thing when you only have 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 employees, but as you grow, it's critical to create a culture that means something to you, and more importantly, means something to them. So after you have values, you got to have a vision. So the way we look at vision is long term. And so the personal why, which I'm going to touch on here a little bit more in depth, I personally believe that the personal why and defining that personal why for each of you individually, and this is not well, again, I'm going to get into more detail, but it's not, I need to have this much money and this many islands and so forth. There's financial security is not a bad thing to have as a component of a why, but the why is kind of what you want chiseled on your gravestone, and we're going to talk about it more. Understanding your strategic objective and how that serves your personal why is vital, very, very important. And then just make a commitment to be systemic in everything you do. Everything you do you should just start and go, is this something I'm going to repeat? If you're going to repeat it once or twice, don't bother systematizing it, just hustle it out. But if you're going to do it multiple times, systematize and commit to it. How many of you guys have SOPs? I'll start easy. Everybody probably has some version of an SOP, right? But how many of you have it for every position in your company? All right, Simon does. So Simon's going to share all his SOPs later, and now yours are done too. We just called him out. We'll see. It's got but fundamentally, every position, every process, you want to try to get into a systemic mindset. And that basically means written and editable. People can edit and modify it as you go, because these things change all the time. And we may even talk about some tools and techniques to help you along the way. And then fundamentally, when we talk about strategy, systems, and scale, to scale you need people. Just let that sink in. No scale without people. So as you define your why might be, I want to live on a beach and have a laptop lifestyle, and that's what I want. So you're going to engineer that lifestyle differently. You're still going to need people because you don't want to sit there and do customer service from the beach, right? But versus an empire builder who says, I want to take my company public and I'm going to be the next Richard Branson, right? Those are two different whys. And they're two different lifestyles. So I don't care what your why is. Anybody can have whatever why they want. But as you define that, then you define how the people fit into it. In all cases, people are the secret. And then finally, if you don't state your goals, it's very, very difficult to achieve the goals. Isn't that ironic? If we don't write them down, if we don't really follow a path, it's hard to get there. So as many times as you guys may have heard that, write down what your objectives are, write down your why. We're going to try to help you get farther along to a why process. And so again, our mission is to deliver strategy, systems, and scale, which we've discussed. All right, so I think we're going to have you guys read this. Just go ahead. Some of you have been through this exercise, but this is just to get your mind reset. Just raise your hand when you can read this. Everybody should be able to more or less read this. So the human mind says, hey, it doesn't matter the order of these words or the letters, as long as they're the right letters, your brain will just decode that for you, which sounds awesome, right? Yeah, it's like autopilot. Sweet. You don't even have to think. That's the message. Over here, go ahead and read that out loud. Out loud. A bird in the bush. So, as I like to illustrate, people don't actually even see the second the. Jim, you're right over here by Simon. Hey, buddy. Good morning. Hey, there's Jim. He hit traffic. So not only do you not, 80% of the people don't say the second the because their mind actually blocks it out. Go, you don't need that. Right? It's redundant. So on one exercise, your brain is filling in patterns that don't really appear to exist. And on the second, it's taking away redundant information. And that sounds really awesome. And so the next little exercise I'm going to have you guys do is just count the letter F. Now, if you've already done this, you can just hold off. But just count the letter F. I'll give you a second. Maybe 10 seconds here, 15 seconds. So this is a trick, by the way. I'm giving you full warning. So count the letter F. And everybody here knows what the letter F looks like? Okay, we'll just go back here. Go ahead and raise your hand if you... Actually, I'll have you stand up. Just make sure I don't let you fall asleep. So stand up if you can, and be careful where you're tight over here. If you saw one F, right? Everybody should have one F. Good. Audience participation, stand up. Nobody else saw an F? Oh, at least one F. Yeah, excuse me. At least one F. Everybody's like, only one? Yeah, all right. Now, that's my problem. That's my responsibility. So if you have two, stay standing. Simon saw no Fs, by the way. Yeah. Stay standing if you saw 3 Fs. Stay standing if you saw 4 Fs. Okay, stay standing if you saw 5 Fs. Stay standing if you saw 6 Fs. Stay standing if you saw 7 Fs. Okay, there's not 7 Fs. Brad saw 7 Fs. No, he's working. Okay, so let's count them up. All right, so, oops, excuse me. This is one I don't have animated. Right here. Okay, so let's count them up. So this is 1, 2, and where's the third one? Scientific. Those are the easy ones because your brain reads them as F, that sound. The of reads as a V. 1, 2, 3. That's 6 Fs. So my point is, and this is just, again, this is to break the paradigm. All of you are perfectly literate, accomplished professionals, and although some of you grab the 6, like 70% of people the first time they see this do not see 6 Fs. And so something in front of your eyes can still be elusive, right? So I showed you a pattern that isn't really a pattern, but your brain still looks at it. I showed you plain English that your brain eliminates part of it on your behalf without your permission, by the way. And then I showed you literally right in front of your eyes, and not everybody sees it. Even if you saw it, 70% of people don't see 6 Fs the first time. 80% don't see the second the. So what's my point? You may hear or see or think something today that is based on your current bias. It's based on your current paradigm of thinking. And I'm suggesting that you set those biases aside and you try to break your own paradigms, right? There are times where your brain will help you and take care of you, and there's other times where it'll be an obstacle to you. So just be open and remember that there's a lot of people here with very good information to help you, and the less bias you bring with you, the better off it'll be. Okay, so give me some words to describe this building, some adjectives. Grand, majestic, wide, okay, sure. That's physical. What's that? Tall, sure. Yeah, it's big, right? Any other? Imposing? Magnificent, sure. So in many ways, like I like to think of this as a business you're trying to build, right? If you had a majestic, big, tall, however you think of it, all of those adjectives were they were grand, right? That was one of the first words I heard. All of those adjectives would be nice to have a business built like that. But I see guys, they start right up here. They're like, hey, my next door neighbor, he's got this cool statue. I want one of those, right? And so we literally, our eye is always drawn to that most obvious thing. It's like, I want one of those. And we kind of forget that all of the stuff that got that to stand on top started underneath. The foundation that is subterranean, you can't see it. All that hard work that goes into it, people don't see that. So this is the credit that everybody gets, right? When you hear about the big Elon Musk or the Bill Gates or all of these famous stories we've all heard of, we only see the big majestic structure. We don't know all the labyrinth of stuff underneath the foundation. And my point to you guys is, you're building the ugly stuff under the foundation that nobody can see, and it's not super sexy, but it's got to get built. Otherwise, that thing doesn't stand, right? And then as you get the foundation built, which are always systemic, then you layer in your processes of your different departments. So how many of you guys have a written down org chart? A couple of you, okay. And as you have staff, it's really important to kind of understand where people fit in functionally. And we don't have time to go super into detail on it, but without an org chart to say kind of every position in your company, even if you're a company of 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 people, there's still 30 jobs in every company at least, right? Maybe more. And even if your name's in every bucket, bad news for you, by the way, but that's still an org chart that needs to exist so that you know where to start filling in the blanks. And that fundamentally is the point of this. You want to build something big and lasting, enduring, and majestic, but it takes time underneath the ground, and it also takes time in learning. And time is like, how many of you are really awesome at being patient? That is not a common entrepreneurial strength. Yeah. Jeff says he's good at patience, but that's good. He's the only one, at least for me. So if you're not patient and you don't give yourself time, you're not going to enjoy the ride. And if there's any advice I can give you is, if you think that you just have to pay the tax of agony to be a successful entrepreneur for the next 20, 30 years or whatever your career path is, you are picking a tougher road. There's a better road out there, believe me. Jason knows what I'm talking about. So we're going to talk very quickly about finding your why, and then I'm going to give you a process. As a matter of fact, before you guys go, at lunchtime, make sure you get to be friends with Melissa on Facebook, and she'll get you into the secret Facebook group for this meeting. So I've already got the Find Your Why process posted in that group. It's a PDF you can download. It'll take you exactly through the how to find your why. But I'm going to take you through the top layer of it today. So you don't have to take notes on this or worry about it, but the process will help you get there. So you should be able to locate your company on this timeline. Where are you? Did you just have the idea? Are you kind of midway through it? Or do you have massive growth and you're at the crossroads, right? It's kind of, a company is kind of in this stages for the most part until they're public, and then that's a whole nother life cycle. It's exciting along this way, but without understanding that a company has to mature and that you have the expectation that everything is going to be perfect from day one, again, you're just signing up for pain. How many of you, especially in your day-to-day lives, you feel like the entire operation is kind of hinging on you, right? If you don't show up, does it still go? It's like, I don't know, maybe it goes for a little bit, but maybe not forever. You really want it to make to be at a point where you can step away and everything continues to go on. As an objective, you don't actually have to do that. In fact, when I tried to retire, it sucked. I'll tell you that story another time. So everything we try to do in a systemic context, and which means, all the same process should work for every system, right? First, you discover the foundational pieces. You get through the refinement process or discovery process. Then you work the actual process, make sure it works, and then you launch your why. So this is exactly the way it will work for your why process, and you will get a copy of that again in the Facebook group. So a lot of people, when they start thinking about finding their why, they're like, what do I want in my life? And my advice and the process will say, what don't you want in your life? It starts with what don't you want, right? So does anybody have, like, I know, Chris, you come from the corporate world. Anybody have any things that they don't want in their life that, from their past that they're like, I don't have that anymore, or I don't want that anymore? Give me an example. There you go. Like politics, right? Office politics, not awesome, right? So it'd be nice to get rid of those. Anybody have any other examples? There you go, stress. Yeah, Jason's on the other side of that. Okay, nearly. All right, good. Not the people who work with him, but Jason's fine. Yeah. Yeah. So people have said things like, hey, I don't want to wake up to an alarm clock. I want to be the guy who decides when I wake up. I want to set my own schedule. And the entrepreneur, how many of you have read the E-Myth? Half of you at least. And so I highly recommend the E-Myth, or now called the E-Myth Revisited, just because it helps you with nomenclature and with basic understanding. But the premise of the E-Myth is that you had this great entrepreneurial idea, which he calls an entrepreneurial seizure, right? And then it turns out you just created a job for yourself. And in many cases, that job's a pretty crappy job because you work long hours and you got a crappy boss, which is you, right? And so you've got to really think about what you're doing and what the point of it is. And that's why we have to get through all the barriers and refinement processes. So I'll be honest with you, the process itself on paper is quite simple. You'll read it, you go, no big deal. It took me well over 2 years to get it right. 2 years. And I was working at it once a week, at least. And I hated it, by the way. So I'm telling you guys that this is very, very important, and it's deceptively simple, but it's extraordinarily complex. People often ask me, what's the one thing? And I'm like, there is no silver bullet, but if there was one, this would be the thing that made the biggest impact in my life, is defining your why, understanding this. Basically, it's 2 to 3 sentences that define what you want out of life. That why will enable you to use the barometer for every decision you make, right? Because we all have all this incoming flow of opportunities, and we're always running around, should I do this, should I do this? And it seems exciting. But if you don't take a minute to go, is this line up with my why? Especially if you don't know the why, you waste a lot of burned calories for no good reasons. It's really, it actually, for me, it was a big waste of time. I would waste at least a decade not knowing my why. I didn't know I should know my why. I just thought I had to carry the big rock up the hill, right? Isn't that the Sisyphus? I thought my job as an entrepreneur is just carry the heavy load up the hill forever. And believe me, that's not fun. I highly recommend you guys don't sign up for long-term pain. So as I mentioned, and I'm going to just pop through these last slides real quick because you guys will get to the process. You start by what you don't want. Take the things in your life that are unacceptable or not optimal, right? It could be everything from I hate this, I want it out immediately, to it would be better if I didn't have this. And start to, rank them, and then you're going to start to say, how can I solve this one? What do I have to do to kind of eliminate and expel this from my life? And just do one at a time, right? And as you do it, you'll start to find a pattern emerge. And that will start to help you finalize. And then once you get your list of what you don't want, the opposite is almost always true what you do want, right? If you don't want to answer to the man, then the opposite is I want to call my own shots, right? And whatever that is, you must define for yourselves these answers. So almost every time I do one of these, at the end, everybody goes, yeah, just tell me your why. And I'm like, I could tell you my why, but then it gives you a license almost. It makes your brain go, oh, I could just, a lot of that sounded good. But it's not yours, and won't be true to you. When you get the why and you write it down on the piece of paper, you should actually have a visceral, physical reaction. You should feel it and go, holy shnikes, that is me. And it seems so simple. I don't know why it took me so long and why it was so painful to get to. But now that you see it, everything gets easier. And I don't mind talking about kind of the general nature of my why, but if I tell you my exact sentences, then you'll just be like, oh, there's my SOP done. So definitely you want to get it through. So we already talked about prioritizing. We're going to speed up a little. And so it's 2 to 3 sentences. Can you imagine having a 2 to 3 sentence summary of what you want out of life? That's your mission. I'm going to just see if there's anything else. So by the end, this is what you should come out with, right? All of it is a clear view of what you want for yourself. And I can't stress this enough. And it says this in the process. And the process is, 10 or 12 pages long. One of them is just write down what you want on your tombstone. And it's not, how was my ranking, what was my BSR on this particular product, right? What's this ASIN organic ranking? It's, right? Can you imagine how on your deathbed, the grandkid comes over, hey, how's it going? I'm on my last breath. What was our sponsored products ACOS yesterday, right? Okay, I got it, and then you die, right? Nobody cares about that stuff at the end of the day. So get in your mind the right parameters of what really is important, and understand your business is a financial instrument to help you accomplish that life mission, not the other way around. Too often we think that we are there to serve the business. The business is there to serve our lives. And I can't stress the difference. If you can flip that paradigm and know that the tool, the financial instrument, which is just a pure financial investment, not a baby, you're not growing the baby up and sending it to college. It's not going to have grandbaby businesses that you're proud of and bounce on your knee. It's just a financial instrument. Even if your why is not to monetize it or exit. So some people say, I want to grow a big public company, I'm going to run it forever. Some people say, I want a laptop lifestyle, and I just want to be a digital nomad and move around and have enough money. Any of those things are fine. The point, though, is if you don't know what you really want and what really resonates with you, it's difficult for you to get there. Okay, so in the secret Facebook group, Melissa will get you access to that. You just have to get you into the Facebook group, you have to be a friend. And so as soon as you're her friend, then she can add you to the Facebook group. Any of the things that we take will be shared there, but at the end we'll also share a Dropbox folder. And that folder will have, one will have the documents, all the presentations. So we'll ask you to send those to Melissa as well. Another one will have any photographs we've taken, so you can have access to all of those. And then the third will be videos, and those will be the session videos. So that Dropbox folder will be kind of your Catalyst 88 one-stop, you click in there and you have access to everything. We share things in the Facebook group that are just kind of random. Some of it will be redundant, but it's meant to be easy access for you. Okay, does anybody have any questions? I know I went through this very quickly. My main point is to tell you, prepare to break your own paradigm and go find your why. If you don't find your why, you're going to waste a lot of time. And by the way, it's a lot like working out, right? You go to the gym, you hustle really hard, and you don't have the results that day, right? You don't really even notice a difference. Next day you go in, same thing. Next day you go in, same thing. Only after months do you go, oh, hang on. The thing's going in the right direction. That's how these things work. It's not just a light switch that you go, okay, boom, check mark, done. This is a hard thing, at least it was for me. Other people say, oh, that was really easy. God bless. I don't know how they did it, but be prepared for a tough road. Go ahead, Tyrone.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, I know you said it took quite a while for you to develop the why. Once you had done that, did you notice a shift in your own company within your teams itself once it was refined?
Yeah, very dramatic. So first thing is I didn't have a why process. I had no roadmap, so that it was a little harder for me to get there. So you guys have a little bit of a cheat sheet to start out with. But yeah, I actually, I was able to change not just my own mindset of what I was doing, but able to align what I really wanted to do. And that actually started into the e-commerce. This is in the late 90s. Started my first big e-commerce business as a result, as a direct result of knowing my why. It's like I had a land-based business, and I'm like, this is like a mine that I'm suffering in, you know, digging coal all day long. I didn't want to dig coal forever. I want to shoot a rocket ship up into e-commerce space. And that changed, not just changed the business, that changed my life. The whole thing is different since then. So